Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, along with...
Hello, I'm Bonnie Snyder.
And we're back in the studio together.
We are back in the studio.
After a couple weeks.
We've been ping-ponging here a little bit over the last...
Well, we were off last week, and then the week before, we had... I had a guest. You were busy, I guess. And Joan Hill was our guest. It was a really good show. She did a fine job. Just a little bit of recap from that. She had lost her adult daughter last September to suicide, and it was emotional. I did buy a new box of tissues, but she did really well, and we made it through the show. And she was, I think, kind of inspirational for people that have lost their children like you to suicide. So I couldn't have done it in that time frame at all, but she made it through, and she did really well. So if you would like support her and Artie, they started a coffee, what do you call it? It's like a coffee truck, like they have food trucks. It's a coffee truck, and for the most part, I think they're during the weekdays they're parked down on Trouble Creek and Grand Boulevard down there, and they're having phenomenal reviews on Artie's coffee. So try and support them, and she'll talk to anybody about, if you want to just go and talk to her, she's willing to talk. So that was really cool. So so that was good. So I don't even remember what you were doing
last Friday.
Not last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. Last Friday we were both off, but I don't know, things are running together.
The thing about it is, May is, can be a really, it's a wonky month for us, because you have schools closing and whatnot. I know it had to be some.
Kids are getting out of school, graduations, Mental Health Awareness Month. There's a lot of events going on during the month. As a matter of fact, you were just at one of them.
I was, but one thing we forgot to do.
It just got to my head just before I said that.
Like jump into the meat and potatoes or the dessert and appetizer.
I know. Just when as soon as I said that, I was like, oh, we forgot.
Yeah, we want to take a moment to, thank, John, our producer, and, Cage is bringing us to you today here at Area 52 Media Group. We do want to thank them, because without them we would not be able to bring this information to you. So we're just blessed to have the studio and John to help this. And then we have DeLynn Gaston as our sponsor. We're really excited about that. I was actually with her this morning. The DeLynn Gaston of the mortgage firm. We're biased. I will admittedly, I'm biased. Love DeLynn to death. If you need anything mortgage related or financial related, or you just want a awesome person in your corner, DeLynn is that girl.
They helped me when I did some refinancing after Bobby died, and they just made it so easy, so easy. Got me out of the big bank corporate icky stuff to a much nicer mortgage situation.
And I know we'll get into it, because what we're chuckling as John was leaving the studio this morning, he was like, don't forget Art for Hope.
I know.
So I'm sure
Well, so then too, kind of like a off sponsor is the Hilton Garden Inn, and I haven't given Cage that information yet, but we'll have that up there too, because they have been great for Art for Hope. But we'll get into Art for Hope here in a little bit.
Gotcha.
But let's go. Okay, so we did our business stuff that we need to do, and very gratefully. So again, May's Mental Health Awareness Month, and so you were at a seminar this weekend
for Saturday, yes.
Yeah, for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I was gonna go, but I didn't go. I just too much going on and trying to keep my mental health level, you know. So.
Oh my goodness. So, you know, the topic of the seminar was LGBTQ plus and suicide prevention. And, you know, I was impressed with how the program, you know, the seminar was set up. And it was an all-day seminar. Like, it started at 8:30, it ended at 4:30. And, you know, for me, when I look at it, and this is a testament to how well this event was, you know, was put together. But as I'm looking at this, you know, I'm like, an all-day seminar on a Saturday?
Yeah. Starting at 8:30.
And it started at 8:30, which, you know, for me meant I needed to leave my house at like 7:15.
Well, yeah, because it's an hour drive.
It was in St. Pete. Yeah, so it was in St. Pete. So I'm like, but then in my head I'm thinking, all right, yeah, which is the beauty of I love what I do when I'm not in the studio. Is that we typically do things on, you know, Saturday or, you know, I said 2 Fridays. It's why a couple of Fridays I wasn't here because of, you know, work-related stuff. Yeah. But anyway, the whole theme of the seminar was, you know, suicide prevention and how it affects the LGBTQ community. And, you know, in the morning they had like a keynote, and then they had a breakout session. And the breakout session, you know, they have 3 different breakouts that you can go. And then we had our lunch networking break. And then after lunch, there was, you know, a keynote. And then the same 3 breakout sessions. So what I liked about that is you had the opportunity to attend at least 2 of the breakouts. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what I found as I'm looking, you know, as I was listening to the seminar, you know, one, like I said, started at 8:30 and at 4:30. At no time did I find myself doing the, you know,
the nod.
You know, this is morning I'm falling asleep. At no time did I, you know, was I like unengaged, and, you know, did I feel like, well, let's hurry and get this over. Right. Nothing like that. You know, so what is alarming is, you know, the rates of suicide amongst the LGBTQ community. You know, there was a lot of focus on, you know, how the different, you know, laws and how, you know, politics are really affecting the LGBTQ community. I don't know. We might have. I think we have assets from the seminar, don't we? So this was one of the slides that the person, one of the speakers put up, you know, that had to do with gender identity diversity. And, you know, as I'm looking at this, the way they described it is, on here, never mind, this is not an all-inclusive list, but how people identify themselves, you know, how they gender identify themselves. And, you know, it's like, from what I understand, like the words that are bigger, you know, it tends to be like the ones that you hear a lot, and then the smaller ones are like less notable ones. But I took a picture of this particular slide because it, you know, to me, besides the, you know, the diversity piece of it, it, you know, was a really good snapshot, you know, of just how different people identify themselves. Mm-hmm. And some of them I was like, wow, I've never heard that one before. I've never heard that one. But, you know, your typical is, you know, male, woman, you know, man, woman, male, female, and then, of course, human, and then all of the other little sprinkles of, you know, the gender identity along with it. You know, this was a really, you know, this particular speaker went into a really nice, succinct, non-boring detail on, you know, gender identity in itself, and, you know, what it meant. And I was like, wow, you know, like it was blown away. The other thing that I found very interesting about the event is all of the keynote speakers were all a part of the LGBTQ community.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
And I looked at it, and of course, as I'm sitting back, was it planned that way? I don't know.
Right.
However, if it was planned that way, I would say, and this is just my own personal opinion, stroke of genius. Because for me, here's how I look at it. If I'm listening to a keynote, I want the person, that is, giving information to me. If you're not relevant to the topic, you're just talking.
Right.
So what I liked about, again, each of the presenters is not only with providing us with, the information and the data and, what the talking points were, there was also that ability to infuse, personal experience.
Well, they have lived life
Yes.
experience.
And I was like, like this particular person, the person who did, that particular part of the segment, my brain got locked there for a second. Infused within the discussion, their own struggle with identity. And at what point, like, I knew there was something, and I don't want to use the word off, that's like, okay, why do I have these feelings, and the confusion that they were going through in terms of reconciling themselves, with their feelings to, accepting that they were gay. And what was funny about it is he's telling the story, it was a male, he was telling the story, and he was like, I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know what my what my family's going to think, when I finally, come out to them. And, what I loved about it is this misperception that some people have, about, it being quote unquote choice. It's not.
Right.
But anyway, he's like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the right way I want to tell my parents and, or my family, and how do I want to do this? And I think he said they were at, like, a family function, but it was like a dinner or barbecue or something like that. And they were all sitting around the table. And, he kind of makes this grand announcement, oh, by the way, guys, I'm gay. And he said, my family looked at me and said, we knew it all along. We were just trying to figure out how long it was going to take you to tell us. And I, of course, we, all of us that were there, we laughed because, mind you, he was infused with the humor, and he was like,
right.
We knew it. We were waiting for you to tell us, that, we wanted you to tell us before we told you. We've known this all along.
Right.
But for me, the takeaway of that discussion was his family, obviously accepting him for who he was, but it was, the greater message to me was meeting that person in their comfort zone, and he was like, it was like such a relief, but he was like, but I was kind of bummed because it took like the surprise, the mystique.
Took the wind out of his sails a bit.
Out of this, he goes, here, I'm thinking that I'm going to do this big reveal, and, there's going to be, fireworks, good fireworks,
right.
Fireworks and everything like that. And I told him this, he was like, it fell flat. He was like, we already knew. But, no, that was good. Dylan's there another, I think I have another asset, or I just called him Dylan Chase.
See, you do too.
Well, because we're used to Dylan being here. Sorry, Chase. So this particular photo, this is my coworker. Her name is Gabby. She was at the, obviously up there with me. She's new to our team. And the running joke between she and I, when she was hired, our supervisor says, you're going to follow, I'm going to partner you with Bonni. You'll shadow Bonni for a while. And oh, by the way, you need to babysit her because of her knee. And so, but when I was coming back to work, our supervisor was like, hey, we have a new team member, and it was Gabby. She's going to, I'm putting her with you so she can babysit you because we know that you're not going to rest your knee. And so she was at this seminar with me, and I was like, "You gonna babysit me some more?" But no, I love her. I love her. So, yeah, she, like I said, that was they had a little photo booth thingy set up. Next one, sir.
I think those are the only two that I put up there
Oh, okay.
for that. Yeah.
There was one. There was a woman. Her name was Brianna. Who is she does she's drag there in she's around the Tampa Bay area, and she got up and she shared her story, and her story was really powerful. So I got to talk to her afterwards, and I was like, "Can I take a selfie with you?" And she talked about, and I don't want to give too much away. Her connection to, well, obviously, she's in the community, but her connection to suicide and whatnot. And so I shared with her, and it's like, so, I have the show. And I do. I said, it's my co-host, and I have the show. And I told her about the show, and I was like, so, would you be willing to come and, be a guest? And she was like, absolutely. So it's like, well, I'm going to reach out to her and,
Right.
Have her on, because again, it's relevant to, the topic.
Oh yeah.
But, the other thing with the seminar that struck me was one of the breakout sessions had to do with resiliency. And the woman who, was the facilitator for that breakout section, she shared, she's gay, she's lesbian. But she says, with the, and I know here in Florida we call it the Don't Say Gay bill.
Yeah.
She goes, with the passage of Don't Say Gay bill, my children, she has 2 sons, my children aren't allowed to talk about their mothers. They're not allowed to talk about their parents. And I was like, and I'm sitting, when she said that, of course, I'm sitting back in my chair, and I was like, did I just hear what she just said? And she goes, yeah, and, she went on to talk about how, let me think. For Mother's Day, this one year, Mother's Day, they were only allowed to make one Mother's Day card. Like, they couldn't make a Mother's Day for
both of them.
for both moms. You can only make one Mother's Day card. And I don't think they could, what am I trying to say? Illustrate, decorate this card that would acknowledge both moms. Father's Day became an issue because it's like, well, I'm father, so.
Right.
And, so anyways, this is going back and forth. And, as I'm, so she's kind of lucky now because the teacher that her children have this year don't really, they don't get wrapped around the axle, about the whole, you have
Right.
2 mothers. So, of course, at the end of, the breakout, she's asking, does anybody have any questions? This girl. I'm going to make sure I heard something right here. Your teacher, you just said that your sons are not allowed to talk about you in school because you are what's considered a quote-unquote non-traditional family. And I was like, okay, but, they have a teacher this year who, doesn't, is not an issue with it. How do you prepare your children for when they, are in another classroom setting and that teacher, has an issue with the fact that they have 2 moms? And, I was...
And really pushes the
yes.
Don't Say Gay, yeah.
And I was struck by her comment when she said, I would take my children to school. And she says, unfortunately, there are some people who, unlike her, who that could work for, that doesn't have that ability, but she said, I would have to take my kids out of school. And I was like, okay, let me flip it. I said, if I can ask a follow-up question to that. You have parents who are stating, basically exercising their rights as a parent in terms of what their kids are going to be subjected to, learning, et cetera, et cetera. What do you as a parent, how do you combat the fact that your rights are being trampled? Like, my First Amendment, if I use myself, my First Amendment rights are the only ones that matter. So if I say, like, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. One parent took a poem out of a Miami-Dade school.
Yeah, one parent.
I read that one parent. I was like,
but this has happened on several occasions recently. That whether it be the poem or a book,
yes,
one parent.
One parent. And so I was asking, I asked her, as one parent, if I decide, I don't want my child in the school, in the same classroom with this child because this child has two mothers,
right?
And suddenly now we have to either figure out what to do with me, or my child, or we're going to have to do something with your child. And, her comment to me was, she has an opinion on it. She's, because of her position and, where she, what she does for a living and where she works, or, an organization that she represents. She says, I got to be careful how I answer that. And she goes, she has an opinion on it. It's just, and I get it, we all, we're representing particular agencies. We really have to be careful.
I know.
The position that we, or how we, but, again, getting off that soap, well, I'm not going to get off that soapbox.
I know. I just want to point out too. Did you see a copy of the report that parent filed about the poem?
I didn't see the report. All I heard was like it wasn't educational, and they did.
There was a bunch of grammatical errors. I mean, it was like, are you kidding me? You are letting this one parent who can't even fill out this form properly and use proper grammar to dictate everybody else's life in this class.
So I guess what I'm hearing is, how do you take somebody who appears to be uneducated is going to make a judgment call about what is and is not educational?
It makes it appear that way,
Yeah.
because of the way that she filled out this complaint form. Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's
Whether it is or not, it's the appearance.
Right.
I
mean, it is. It's a sad state of affairs because, again, as the seminar, again, the theme of the seminar and just all the data that's coming out, is, with all of this stuff that seems to be targeted towards the LGBTQ community, that suicide rates are going to go up. Right now we've taken away, people for them to talk to. Teachers are afraid to do their job. Teachers are leaving. There are times where, even, what I do, because I had somebody ask me, how does this affect what you're doing?
Right.
And I was like, good question. We had, what did we do? We had went in and we had, Monday, I did a town hall. One of the committees I chair, at a town hall on, leading inclusive teams, it's a cultural diversity. And it was held on one of the colleges. And somebody asked me, actually, no, let me back up for somebody asked me. We had some negative comments on, one of our social media pages that we had to take it down. And we had to take down the comments because they were just, that vile. Or my understanding, well, let me take that back. They were vile. It was very, the message was very clandestine. It's like, are they saying that there's going to be an issue, or are they indicating that hey, this topic is the potential of there being an issue? And because it was that ambiguous, it was kind of like, all right, well, we got, Pasco Sheriff's in the house, we'll be okay. The school was alerted of it, it was okay. But at the same time, it's like, this is what we come to.
Yeah,
This is what we come to. And, again, one of the themes, throughout, again, the seminar on Saturday and the town hall on Monday, and then even, what we do and know, just be like, you don't have to be in the field working to understand this. if you don't have somebody you can go and talk to, you don't have that that safe person, or suddenly you are the target of bullying, or negativity and whatnot, and you have no place to go. Even it would not be a stretch to hear this person died by suicide, or what was going on. They were bullied because they were gay, or they were bullied because they were a minority. They were bullied because they were a man. They were, what the bullying is. But in this particular case, because it was LGBTQ centered, the fact that there's so much backlash against the community, and my question is why?
Well, I know within the last couple months, my neighbor's grandson told his father that he was gay. The kid is an awesome kid, and the parents are very hands-on parents. They have 2 sons. This is the older one, and when his father told my neighbor, she was like, okay, and then she told me, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I know the kid. I've watched him grow up, but the thing what it comes back to his dad is, he's a little bit better because he's had a little bit more time to process it, but for his dad, it's more the fear for his son because of what is out there, and something either emotionally, physically, or whatever from the outside injuring his son, and then that again could turn into suicide, which I don't think that would happen because I know these parents, but that's his biggest fear of the whole. It's not that his son is gay. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's the fear for his son's safety.
And it goes back to when you're looking at fear for his child's safety, and I applaud him as a parent. Obviously as parents, we get concerned about our kids' safety. The larger issue is what's the reason for all of this? Like, why? Like, my thing is, when I think back, and I think I may have shared the story before, when it comes down to books, I don't want my children to read TV shows. I don't want them to watch. People, I don't want them around. Not that I really cared. I shouldn't say I didn't care when my kids were around. But it's not like, oh, you can't play with little Johnny because he has blonde hair and blue eyes. Or, you can't play with little Susie because, she walks with a limp. I looked at my children, hey, go forth, I would say go forth and multiply. They did that. But no, I was like, go out and, make friends and, explore, like, get to know each other's differences. I wanted my kids to be little social beings. Although that social being, especially with my daughter, became expensive when it was birthday party time. 300 kids at my house.
Well, and again with his child, he was funny because he went back to his dad, back to his dad being afraid for his safety, and he's like, Dad, I know what I'm doing. Like, he's trying to say to his dad, everything's okay. I know what I'm doing. He has friends. There's a boy that they're interested in each other. He says, you're overreacting. But it's still, he's the parent, and he's just still, because of the environment around that community, which is so uncalled for.
And and I can remember, and I hate playing politics. I really do. I don't do politics, but I can discuss politics, which is weird. But and I sit back and I look at, like, when did it start getting this bad? When did it become such a It's not like LGBTQ people, or
It's not like it suddenly popped up.
right. It's
This has been forever. As long as humans have been alive, and as long as we have been here,
excuse me. Yes.
it's no different through the centuries of human life, period.
But now we've progressed into, the talking points of, people are indoctrinating your children.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
But
seriously.
unfortunately, people hear that and they buy into it. And, I don't care how much data you put in front of them, they're not going to budge.
No.
And I'm like, what can I do with you? Nothing. But yeah, it's, like I said, the seminar was amazing. It was an amazing seminar.
Well, that's good.
So,
Yeah, I just spent my day doing other things. It's been a busy week, and we just started, this Wednesday we had our first invitation meeting. We're starting a new Rotary, and it's all women that are starting this new Rotary club that historically has been a men's club, but we have seven of us women who started this new Rotary club, so been working a lot on doing stuff with that too, and stuff with the foundation. We after we had Freedom Boat Club on, what was her name?
the captain?
Our captain, Katie. I can't remember. Anyways, she contacted me, and they are going to do an evening sunset cruise for us sometime during the summer.
Nice.
Which will be really nice. And I've contacted the people that were on the cruise with us before, and so we're going to start getting that information out to people so that some of the people that couldn't go during the day. Maybe we can get the evening one. So, and they will also are going to participate and do a donation for Art for Hope.
Nice.
Which is a good transition. So I don't forget, I've been forgetting the last couple of weeks to talk about and remind everybody we're having our 6th annual Art for Hope, which is the foundation's major fundraiser. Again, it's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn on the Suncoast in 54. And this year, we've had a couple volunteer meetings, but this year, we have had an amazing amount from a couple people, art donations.
Nice.
Like, I picked up a bunch of artwork last week from, actually, Bob Coons. He was one of our artists just before COVID. And he's taken his art in a different direction, and so he wanted to clear out a bunch of stuff. So he donated a bunch of art. He donated some easels, some print trays, and he actually, when I met him several years ago, he was a land surveyor like Bobby.
Oh, nice.
That's what his whole career was. He was a land surveyor, and here in the Tampa Bay area too. So that was really kind of
Nice way to come full circle.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was really cool. Plus his name is Bob, or Robert, but he really super nice gentleman. So he donated a bunch of art that I picked up. Joanna and Larry DeLuca's Fine Jewelry, they donated a bunch of really cool art.
I met him this morning.
Oh yeah, was he at the meeting this morning? Oh, okay, yeah, they donated a bunch of art. I've got, and I'm going to start bringing some pieces in as we make our way every week, going up to the event.
Are you sure that's wise? Because I could see a piece not making it.
Oh, that's okay. We got plenty of artwork this year.
I can see
Oh,
a
I know.
piece not making it, and it ends up in my living room hanging up somewhere, or somewhere in my home hanging up.
Oh no, that'll be perfectly fine because we have, like I said, I mean it's amazing. I mean, I've really got to get myself on a schedule and get this stuff inventoried and priced out and stuff. So And Bob will end up, he's going to be at the event. Also, he said that he would come. But yeah, Larry and Joanna, a couple of the pieces, I've got to remember, and every time I talk to somebody about it, I always forget. A couple of the pieces, one is huge. It's like 40 by 40 on canvas, and it's a really cool picture. And I can't totally remember it in my head, but it's a depiction of Jesus, and it's just amazing. And usually I wouldn't stick something like that in with this, but it is just such an amazing piece of artwork. And then another one is, it's also on canvas, is not quite as big, but it's good size, the Rat Pack. And it is a really super cool piece. So
Nice.
I got to stretch those. We have some animation cells. We've got 3 or 4 animation cells, and then a bunch of different limited edition lithographs. And of course, we're going to have, artists, local artists there. I think Carol said that she would come back.
I would love to see her do another piece that goes with the piece that I have hanging in my living room.
Well, we put in a request. So we're going to have, she's going to be back, and then, and I'll have to bring a couple of her pieces on too. They're not quite as big, but we have a new artist with the gallery, Marina. She is a Ukrainian refugee, and she's going to be one of our featured artists. And her art, what she does with her art, her son is still in Ukraine fighting, and so when she sells her art, the majority of that money she sends back to her son to help Ukraine. So that's really good. Our photographer, Rick Redmond, he's photographed our events from the very beginning. He has some really amazing photography that he's gonna be displaying, and we're gonna get a few more artists to add kind of to that mix. But
Well, it sounds like, of course, I attended my first one this past year, and I was blown away by it. It was, it is a good event. It's a wonderful, good, that's doing it injustice. It was an amazing event. I especially like the raffles.
the raffles are really great. So yeah, and where it's, we need basket donations, we need sponsorships. So we're starting in on that. I'm not sure, but I told her, we've got a few months for her to work up to it. Kim Romanowski from 9 Round, she was at our volunteer meeting the other night, and she asked who was going to be the keynote speaker. I just kind of looked at her, and I was like, well, how would you like to be the keynote speaker? And she sometimes has a hard time, had time with it, but she did a video for us, and maybe next week, if I can remember, we can pull up the video that she did a few years ago, and I didn't know she was doing it, and she did it for to promote Art for Hope. She lost her dad to suicide, and she was like, I don't know if I can do it, and I'm like, you've got a few months to work on it. And I'm like, Kim, you did that video for us. And it was hard for her to do that video, but I was just so in awe and amazed that she did it. So keeping my fingers crossed that Kim will be our keynote speaker. And her and Mitch have donated some really awesome art. We have some statues, some art statues. A couple of them are Indian themed. I have one that is really heavy. I'll have to get a picture of it. I had a picture of one of my cats when we first brought it in. What it is, it's like a nude women lounging. It's all white. I'm not quite sure yet what it is made of. It's heavy as crap. But one of my cats, I think Felix was the one that he took to that statue. And I have these pictures of Felix just like he's protecting the statue. I'll have to pull out some of those pictures as we start getting closer to this event. So I'm really excited about the event this year. Last year was good that we had, that day was stormy. We had tornado warnings on both sides of the county. We were just coming out of COVID. It was like the beginning of people starting to do events. And it was good, but I just have this really good feeling about this year and with the donations and the participation that we have.
I mean, just listening to you talk about the, what's been donated so far. Again, when I think back to the event of last year, as I'm watching, the pieces get brought in, I was like, wow, like, wow, like, wow. And I think, I like the dual purpose, of the event. Of course, first and foremost, it is the signature fundraiser for the foundation. But along with that, and I find this in any of the work that we do, when the community comes together and supports, these events. So in this particular case, you have local artists, and again, if I think back to last year, a couple of local vendors came out, and donated their time, and was it cupcakes?
Oh, Leanne. Yeah. Leanne's old-fashioned cupcakes. I'm sure she's going to be the dessert sponsor this year, right, Leanne? She's really great at supporting us, and she's down in Brandon, but she comes up every year, and she is our dessert sponsor. And Leanne is awesome. I'll try to remember I got to start making a list for these shows. Leanne wrote a book, and that was released this year, and that tells her story, which is, she has a really awesome story.
Nice.
And but her cookies are just phenomenal, and she ships all over the country, and she makes these. Well, you saw the way that she puts them in these gift boxes and wraps them and for shipping and stuff. I actually have sent a couple to customers, to really good customers, and she, sends them to their door, and they're just like, oh my God.
Hey, it's worth breaking a diet for.
Yeah, most definitely. So Leanne, look up Leanne's Old Fashioned Cookies, and if you're a business, corporation, she does corporate work. She did stuff for like sending cookies to your mom for Mother's Day or something. All these different things. She's a phenomenal person, and her story is crazy. Maybe I can see if sometime we can get her on. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't have much to do with what we do, but it's a story of determination and perseverance under some really tough circumstances.
Well, and see, here's where I would say I feel that the conversation is relevant to what we do.
Well, it is, because with what she did, her life and her journey, depending on her mindset, could have gone a very different way. And she ended up just one little part of it. She had to have brain surgery. I think she had a brain tumor, and she had to have brain surgery. And this was further into her journey, but at the very beginning of her journey, she was a student at, I'm not going to say which college because I don't want to mess it up yet until I know, but one of her projects was to do a business plan and actually do the business. You had to do a business plan, do the business at, on a small scale and, to get a grade for, the term or whatever. Well, she didn't know what to do. And her mom and dad, they always bake cookies. And so her parents were like, why don't you do a cookie business? She's like, oh, that's a great idea. So she started doing this and was selling the cookies on campus.
Right.
And the business was a success as far as that goes. Her teacher said, her instructor said, oh, this business will never work. People eat healthy. It'll never work. And she didn't get a good grade at all for it. And here she is now, has this really successful cookie business with phenomenal cookies.
I wonder where that professor is now.
Seriously.
Those things where it's like, like the doctor told me I couldn't have kids. Where are you at now? See my lovelies. That, this business is never going to get off the ground. Look at me.
Yeah, but look at me now.
Look at me now. But I think, along with that, I think, hearing that story, and it's like, I didn't really get a good grade on this here project. Professor didn't think it was a good, model for a business. I'm successful now. To me, it makes me think of, the combo of, dedication, perseverance, resilience, all that, tied into one nice, tidy little bow.
Well, and just remember, I put up a thing on my Facebook page at the beginning of the week, and it's something like, I don't remember the wording exactly, but thank you to all those people who told me no, because you're the reason I did it. Mm-hmm. It's something like that. That's not exactly it, but that's the gist of it. Tell me no, watch me.
Right. Right.
So yeah. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a really good event, and the Hilton Garden Inn. They're always really great to us, and they're always excited to help host the event for us. So yeah. So as we build up, and like I said, I was going to bring in a small piece to this morning, but we changed our taping time, and I was like starting to run behind. So I just got to start okay, I'm going to bring this piece and this piece this week, and so every week just kind of preview it. And it's okay if you want to buy it, you don't have to wait until the event. We've got plenty of artwork.
Exactly.
We have plenty of artwork. So, anything else going on coming up? We've got, I want to do this before I forget, because I know that I will. Memorial Day weekend is this weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's a weekend that we remember those who served our country and lost their lives. And that includes the soldiers, men and women, family members of the military that have lost their lives to suicide. So it's not just a party Memorial Day weekend, remember. Honor those that have served and protected us and have lost their lives, whether it be in battle or the battle of life when they come home, because it's not easy.
No, it's not. I was struck by a meme that I saw this week, about Memorial Day. And it did a contrast of Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And it's like, not to get them confused, Veterans Day is a day to honor those that, have served or are currently serving.
Right.
Memorial Day is designed to celebrate, those people who did not. And I looked at that and I'm like, that is the most profound one that I've ever seen. I don't
think most people really understand that.
No, they don't.
And I really didn't until just a few years ago. My first husband, Michael, was a Vietnam veteran, and he was traumatized. He had stepped on a landmine. He had shrapnel in his legs. We were together, 6 years. But the last, I think it was one of the last Memorial Days that we were together. We were at a friend's house, and he was a hairdresser at the time, and so it was a couple of years before that. But anyways, so he was doing hair for all these girls' prom, and they were doing a Memorial Day thing on the TV, and he started watching it, and it was the first time that I saw my husband cry. And he wouldn't talk about it. He didn't really talk about it, but it was the first time I saw him cry about that. And of course, he was in Vietnam in the late 60s. He was much older than me, but it hurt me so bad to see that pain in him. And knowing, he lived with that pain every single day. And the way that he was treated when he came home, and the way that he was treated just before I met him, trying to get into the VA hospital when he had been doing cable work, and he had jumped, it was new construction, and he had jumped from one story to the next story, and a piece of scrap metal dislodged in his ankle, which caused a major infection. Well, they were trying to say that it wasn't that because he was a hairdresser, assuming he was gay. It took the governor, and I think at the time our governor was Lawton Childs. I'm not totally sure. I have a newspaper article was written about this. It took the governor of Florida at that time, and this was in the late 70s, early 80s, to get him into the VA hospital.
Yeah, that's another population, that unfortunately suffers with, mental health and, substance and suicide, is our veterans. And yeah, it is, I'm struck, on how long it takes for any kind of care sometimes. And, if I was scratching my head, like, isn't what VA got in trouble for before? And I get it. Some of it is short-staffedness or whatnot. Like I called the other day, just some images done, and we're like, oh, you want to do it here? It's the beautiful new building, here in our town. July the 5th. And so I was like, yeah, I need to call him back. Can we talk about this for a moment? Like, all right, that's if I do it here. What if I go into Tampa? Is it going to make me, am I going to have to wait that long? Yeah, it's a shame with vets, coming back from, like in your husband, coming back from a war that was unpopular, being treated, with indifference when you get back, or in some cases really cruel, and then,
Well, even when he was killed by a reckless driver in South Florida surveying, and when I had to go to the sheriff's department to pick up his belongings, which was just in a manila envelope, and of course he had his VA card in there, and I remember the room, friends of ours took me there, and so I'm sitting in this room with them standing with me, this cold metal table, and this sheriff's officer comes in, and he has this manila envelope in his hand, and he tosses it across the table, just tosses it at me. And mind you, at the time, I was only 26 years old at the time. My husband was 43 when he died. And I was just like,
I'd have been livid.
I was just in shock.
No, I understand. And I get it,
Because number one, I was still in shock because I took him to work one day and never saw him again. But for him to be, and me to be treated that way this many years later, it was just, I'm not kidding, I was just in shock.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say I would have lost my mind. It is a shame, however, that, oftentimes other people's, how our actions affect others, why that isn't taken into consideration sometimes, especially in dealing with, a situation like grief and loss.
Yeah, it's, so I just want everybody to remember that remember the family, our fallen soldiers, over the weekend while you're having your barbecue, because without them, you probably wouldn't be able to have that barbecue as easily.
Right.
So again, we want to thank Area 52 Media Group, and DeLynn, Gaston from the mortgage firm for sponsoring our show and giving us the privilege to sit here and just talk, bring you information. I'm not saying jabber.
The ability to, have a conversation about, a topic that can be
difficult things.
And sometimes these challenging, difficult conversations, are easier, like some people just make the conversation easier, especially, even when they're difficult.
Right. DeLynn, can we put up the, or Dylan, see, now you made me do it. Cage, can we put up, can we put up the phone numbers?
The hotline numbers.
The hotline numbers. There we go. So remember the National Suicide Prevention Lifelines. The new number, 988, is a call or text number. And with that 988 number, veterans can press 1. And we have our, there you go.
You cannot have a positive life and a negative mind. And what was funny with this quote is I was, I was like looking for a quote for today. And that one just jumped out at me for a lot of different reasons. I'm going back out on medical. And I'm like, I could, just be, I could take this and just be like really negative with it or, be depressed about it. But, I'm like, instead of that, I was like, okay, so I'm getting a summer break, a paid summer break. And I think it is a nice testament to we control, how we approach things, or how things affect us is very much determined by how we approach them. And knowing that and understanding that, as we always say,
there's always hope.